What has driven you to join civil services instead of pursuing a career in private sector?
Tell me three things which the government administration should learn from Microsoft on the inclusion front. What is tax haven?
There has also been news that half of all the natural springs in Uttarakhand have dried up. What does it entail?
Is the continuing hostility between India and China in India's interest?
Sir, please may I come in?
Yes, come in.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir.
Please be seated.
Thank you, sir.
Madhav,
Yes, sir.
please give a brief introduction about yourself.
Thank you, sir. Sir, my name is Madhav Bharadwaj. I hail from Missouri. I did my schooling in Missouri. After completing my schooling from Weinberg Allen School, I joined MNIT Allahabad and finished my graduation in computer science. Post which, I joined IIM Ahmedabad and finished my MBA in 2020. I worked with Microsoft for 2 years, wrote a UPSC attempt with it. So last year when I didn't clear UPSC, I quit Microsoft, and this attempt and this means I've done without a job.
So, Madhav, tell me, you are such a brilliant student. You did your graduation and from IIT, IIM, and IIM. So, what has driven you to join civil services instead of pursuing a career in private sector?
Sure, sir. Sir, I belong to Missouri and my father's worked at Labasta. So this idea was always in my head. However, it's difficult to crack this exam and I was never sure of my abilities, whether I can study for so long. And hence I hedged my bets and secured a career first. And so also I believe that I'm an empowered individual and I've received very good education and I want to empower others like me. And that's why I've always wanted to join civil services in childhood, sir.
Okay. You have worked in Microsoft also for some time.
Yes, sir.
And yesterday we heard, or today in the newspaper it came out, that Microsoft is laying off around 11,000 employees, regular employees from its role. Do you think that year 2023 is going to be the worst year in the history of tech world?
So I would say that what happened during COVID was that the tech companies hired a number of employees and hired more than the needed amount. Now what happened is that because of the global recession that is setting in, they do not need as many employees, so they're just correcting that. So I would say that I think it will not be the worst year, but in terms of employment and the number of people who are working in the tech, I think that may be impacted because of the global scenario that is prevailing, sir.
What are the, once a staff is retrenched, what are the facilities given to a staff, to a retrenched staff?
So you mean at Microsoft?
In terms of, yeah, Microsoft or any multinational?
So some of the facilities that I can recall are the compensation, which is also a hefty amount. And then there are insurances, benefits, perks that come along with it, sir.
What do you mean by startup in India?
So startup is a new company that is not less than 10 years old, and which pursues an opportunity is what is a startup, sir.
What are the funding issues with Indian startups?
So one of the funding issues that I can think of is that access to capital is a challenge, sir, because of the viability of the startup and MSMEs also, sir. Sir, finding the right people, formal sources of credit, and being able to tap into that is a challenge, sir.
But why should smaller startups, they are smaller in size by any definition, why should they be laying off their employees?
So even startups pay a lot of money to their employees. So it is a cost cutting that is happening. And because of the digitalization wave that had come along with COVID, they also did overhiring and they are also correcting their budget right now, sir.
What do you mean by startup bubble?
So I'm not sure I know the exact definition, sir.
Okay. Now you are a student of management. What is the importance of performance management system in government institutions?
So performance management system is to ascertain and evaluate how well an employee is doing. So importance would be in terms of to give feedback as to if they are lacking in certain directions, to facilitate promotion, transfers, confirm services of probationary people. So these are some of the importance of PMS. Sir.
Do our governments follow this principle of performance management system?
So they do so. There is an annual ACR report which provides 360-degree
But
feedback.
I believe with seniority and age, there are two very important considerations for promotion. Even if you are a brilliant officer and you are stands junior to me, probably you don't have a chance to rise higher compared to me. Do you think the system is a good system?
So our system is a bureaucratic system which is based on Max Weber's philosophy of hierarchy. And I would say it is based on the policies and principles. Now,
do you suggest any changes in the system?
So while I believe in merit, however, I think this system actually lays down the policies and provides that based on seniority only that the promotion can happen. And I think that leaves some scope for fairness and not something that is arbitrary, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
Madhav. Madhav, you're from Mussoorie.
Yes, sir.
Why Mussoorie is called Mussoorie?
So there's a plant called Mansoor which grows in abundance there, and that is why it is named after that plant, Mansoor. And
tell me about Mansoor, the plant. Have you seen that?
So it's a shrub that grows, and it's a shrub, sir, which grows on the roadside.
It's not, you're not answering my question. Have you seen that or not?
I've seen it, sir.
So what is its botanical name?
I'm not aware about the botanical name.
You're from Uttarakhand, and Uttarakhand is in news for the Joshimath thing.
Yes, sir.
You have studied management. You want to get into the administration. Tell me, do you believe the government policy of limited sharing of information with the stakeholders is a good decision here?
So when you are managing a place like Joshimath or any organization for that matter, I'm just applying the principles of both management and government here. I think that the information that needs to be conveyed should provide clarity and communicate the exact message that is needed. So if the government is thinking that they do not need to provide entire information, that is because they do not want to create a panic in Joshimath. And keeping that in mind, you have to do that cost-benefit analysis of the information and then give that information to the people.
But the Honorable Chief Minister actually said that government should not be giving adequate information because it will affect the Char Dham Yatra. Do you believe that it is a good reason enough for keeping the stakeholders in dark?
So I do not have a concrete opinion on this. However, I would say that I think since it will affect the Char Dham Yatra, I think we should not give the entire information. However, it is not a concrete reason, sir.
Anyway, you have also, you did your graduation from NIT, and that's in computer science.
Yes, sir.
You have also worked in Microsoft.
Yes, sir.
Recently, there was this OpenAI chat GPT thing. Tell me, what is OpenAI, one? And second, how the open source and the artificial intelligence, if they are combined, what is the impact?
So OpenAI is the company that has built ChatGPT application. Second part of your question is to combine open source and AI. And I'm sorry, I'm missing out the question here.
What is going to be the impact overall of these two technologies and these two ways of disseminating the knowledge in computer science coming together?
So if we combine open source and AI together, it gives you the flexibility to build applications on top of it and to use it further. For example, Android. You can build applications on Android because it is open source. And AI has the capacity to leverage the human skills, human intelligence. So I think given both of them, I think it will have impact in terms of the kind of applications that can be developed and will ease the quality of life and provide a number of applications in a number of fields like health, education, and of course writing basic and automating a number of tasks like emails, essays for that matter.
But when it comes to the public in general, your company, the company you work for, is notorious for being too proprietorship based and actually being against the philosophy of open source. what exactly, since you worked there, what exactly was the philosophy? Why Microsoft was so against the open source itself?
So
Philosophically speaking, I do understand the commercial aspect.
So philosophically speaking, I think there can be negative usages of it also, in which the open source can impact the IPR rights of these companies, and you can develop applications which may not be that beneficial or impactful, sir, and that they can eventually end up harming small businesses also, sir.
Since you worked in these organizations, tell me the status of inclusion, especially concerning the disability and other factors in these companies.
So working in Microsoft is one of the companies in which we have to write goals also, annual goals that we write in terms of diversity and inclusion parameters. And there are seminars, there are people, there is diversity and inclusion, people who are hired, and then there are people who share their experiences, and they ensure reasonable accommodation of their workforce. And they promote diversity and inclusion, be it women, be it the LGBT community, or the person with disabilities. So I think Microsoft is doing a great job when it comes to.
Tell me three things which the government administration should learn from Microsoft on the inclusion front.
So one thing was that inclusivity with merit. So based on your merit, they are including you. And second would be, sir, reasonable accommodation in terms of the best of class equipments that you can need. And third thing would be, sir, the awareness and the culture, sir. Culture of inclusiveness is the most important aspect in Microsoft, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Madhav, your mother comes from Muradabad.
Yes, sir.
I can assume that you have visited several times Muradabad.
I've been to Muradabad, sir.
Okay, why it is known? For which industry?
So it's known for brass industry. It's called Pital Nagri.
How old that industry is?
I'm not sure of the timeline, sir.
Okay. And what is the product in that district under one district, one product program?
I'm not aware, sir.
Okay. You studied in Motilal Nehru National Institute of Technology.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about his contributions in freedom struggle.
Right, sir. So Motilal Nehru was the chairman of the committee that wrote Motilal Report, and that was the first time that Indians got a chance to write their own constitution. So that is one of the biggest contribution of Motilal Nehru, sir.
Which provisions of that report have been drawn into our present constitution?
So federalism, fundamental rights, Supreme Court. These are the three that I remember, sir.
And which are the provisions which have been taken in from the Government of India Act 1935?
So from 1935, bicameralism, federalism, office of governor, parliamentary democracy, sir.
Okay. So why did Mr. Motilal Nehru form a different party, that is Swaraj Party?
So that is because of the difference of opinion that had come in Congress, in which whether to contest elections to the legislature or not, while one half of the Congress believed that they should not, and while the other half, that is Motilal Nehru and Chittaranjan Das, they believed that they should. And that's when this was after the non-cooperation movement had been suspended, sir.
Who are the other friends or partners of Mr. Nehru in Swaraj Party apart from C.R. Das?
So I think Lala Lajpat Rai, sir, because Lala Lajpat Rai is the only name that I remember right now, sir.
Any Patel?
Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, sir. No, sir. That was not him. He was one of the people who was against it.
Okay, his elder brother. Okay, fine. What is tax haven?
So tax havens are the countries in which the tax rates are very less. So a number of companies, the multinational companies, they declare their revenues there so that they have to pay less tax, sir.
Okay, so are they illegal?
So they're not illegal, sir, because taxation is the sovereign right of a country, sir.
Okay. So do they give birth to a problem of base erosion, profit shifting?
Yes, sir, they do. What happens is that countries, the MNC countries, they, are charged on the basis of where they declare their profits, and a number of countries have offices set up there, and that is where they declare the profits. While countries like India, they are at loss because the profits are shared there, and there's a GAFA taxation that has happened, and then G7 and OECD have proposed global corporate minimum tax of 15% for that matter, sir.
Is there any international law or convention to restrict these practices, competitive tax regime?
So for this practice, I think these negotiations are in by G20 and OECD, in which global minimum tax will be levied at 15%. I think that is still to be finalized yet, sir.
Okay. So India is hosting G20 meeting. Is this part of agenda this year?
Yes, sir, this is part of the agenda.
Okay. Rural economy is not performing well in spite of rapid growth in urban part of the economy. According to your understanding as a student of management, which measures should be taken in India to accelerate growth momentum in rural economy?
So one of the things that should be done there, sir, greater focus on decentralization, sir. So when we decentralize, we'll be able to identify the problems and the responses based on the needs of the rural areas. Second focus would be, sir, on training and development. That becomes part of human resource development. And sir, the third one would be to provide infrastructure and amenities so that they can pursue their economic activities, sir.
What is Act East policy? Has it even been able to reverse the unwanted migration of people?
So Act East policy is the revamped version of Look East policy. Its focus is on northeastern part of India and the Southeast Asian countries. So it focuses on connectivity and economic development of this region. Now the second part of your question, in terms of migration, so to some extent, yes, it has curbed migrations because there are amenities and facilities that are being developed there. However, the pace of development is a little slow, because of which curbing migration also becomes a little slow, sir.
Okay, my final question. Regional disparity and social inequality both are rising very fast in India. Do you think this is sustainable in the long run for economic development? And if not, what measures should be taken?
So this is not sustainable for economic development in the long run. So some of the measures for regional inequalities would be to incentivize companies, infrastructure and amenities to diversify out to new areas, attracting FDIs in new areas, developing those employment and economic opportunities in new areas. Now, in terms of social inequality, so that is, we have a regressive taxation system. So we should focus more on direct taxes. That is one. Getting more people to pay their taxes. Then secondly, sir, focus on health, education, that is the human development indicators, which will help people rise up the ladder of rise up in economically and have more financial leeway to bridge the gap of social inequality, sir.
Do you think that keeping CIT, that is corporate income tax, very low has also added to growing inequality?
I'm not sure whether I have an opinion on this one, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Madhav, a few years back, there was this Nainital houseful call which was there. Are you aware of it?
No, ma'am.
In 2018, Nainital declared itself as houseful.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Now that, yes, ma'am, I understood. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can we now declare Uttarakhand as houseful?
Ma'am, not the entire Uttarakhand. So in Uttarakhand, the problem is that there are certain places like Nainital, like Mussoorie, they're overcrowded, while there are certain other places like Munsiari, Harsil, which are also equally beautiful. But given the connectivity issues and the infrastructure lacking there, that has not been able, so they're not attracted to it doesn't attract tourists that much. So I would say we should declare certain overcrowded localities as houseful and limit the number of people who are visiting there, while and we should encourage the other localities. So not the entire Uttarakhand, ma'am.
But maybe if we encourage other localities, we would again be disturbing the pristine environment that is still by chance preserved over there. And if we undertake the infrastructure development, we can see what is happening in Joshimath. Don't you think we are treading a very thin line?
Ma'am, this is the environment and development balance that we'll have to maintain, ma'am.
In which Uttarakhand has failed remarkably.
Yes, so when we say we need a planned infrastructure development, ma'am, in which there has to be proper assessment, scientific assessment, and we should be able to and follow that by in spirit and letter, sir, ma'am, because the reason is that what happens is that there's rampant illegal encroachments and illegal infrastructure that develops there, ma'am, and that is problematic. So we have to ensure that the policy outlines how many tourists can visit, how much infrastructure is the capacity of the area that is needed, ma'am. And basis that we should go ahead with infrastructure development.
Okay. Can you tell me some of the signs that are visible in Uttarakhand of global warming?
Sure, ma'am. The cloud burst and the flash floods that happen so frequently is one of the signs. Then irregular rainfall, ma'am, because of which landslides are also triggered. Then the glaciers are melting, and of course the Joshimath and the calamities that have been happening in Uttarakhand show us that these are all, in a broader sense, the impact of global warming.
There has also been news that half of all the natural springs in Uttarakhand have dried up. What does it entail?
Ma'am, that is also problematic, ma'am, because springs are sources of fresh water. So that will create problems of drinking water and water that is usable by the living beings, ma'am.
Okay, a related last question from my side in this area would be, government had entered an agreement with the Japanese agency with regards to landslides. That was way back in 2017, and it was supposed to end in March 2022. And now we see this Joshimath crisis. So what happened? What did we do with the Japanese advice and intelligence and everything?
Ma'am, to be honest with you, I'm not aware of this agreement, ma'am.
Okay, let it be, then we'll move on. You must have known about the financial digitization push that government is giving.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me some of the areas of concern with regards to this right now in India?
Ma'am, the first and the foremost one is that we do not have a data protection bill yet, so we do not have policy clarity. Second one, ma'am, is that we have a financially illiterate population. Third would be, ma'am, the digital divide that exists. And fourth one would be, ma'am, that there are scams and cyber threats that happen on the internet, and we're not completely secure to it, and hence that money can be stolen, to say the least, ma'am. So these are some of the challenges that I can think of it.
Okay, my last question to you, based on your interest in Bollywood movies. It is said that we can consider a movie to be based on feminism if two female characters are talking in the movie for a considerable span of time, and the subject of these two women characters is not men.
Yes, ma'am.
On this logic, can you tell me two feminist movies of Bollywood recently, or from any time?
Sure, ma'am. One would be, ma'am, Jalsa, starring Vidya Balan and Shefali Shah.
Okay.
Second one would be, ma'am, I'd say, based on the logic, I'd say it'll be probably Thappad, ma'am.
Thappad was all about men and their actions.
Then I cannot recall a movie, ma'am.
Okay. Anyway, thank you, Madhav.
Thank you.
Madhav, is the continuing hostility between India and China in India's interest?
So, I would say yes and no, sir. So yes, because it gets us closer to the West, and we can benefit. And it's the competition also, sir. It's when you are competing with somebody, you also tend to grow. So I would say it can be beneficial. However, in the broader sense of sense and the foresight, if we see, then the next few decades will be Asian economies, and if India and China are hostile towards each other, our energies will be directed in that direction.
Are we being used by US in this whole thing? Because see, US is facing this threat from China, and we are neighbors of China, and we are getting pulled into this rivalry.
So I personally believe that US is an unreliable partner, because of course it's sitting far away, and China is a neighbor, so we will be the first one to bear the brunt of it. However, given that we have a hostile neighbor, we need alliances at the same point of time, and there are certain benefits that we get out of the partnership with the US. So we have to have a pragmatic look at this. So they are also having a pragmatic look, and we are also having that to balance our interest and the national interest of the nation, sir.
Okay, Madhav, you come from Uttarakhand. Why this Kalapani issue, and where is Kalapani actually located?
So Kalapani is located in Pithoragarh district of Uttarakhand. There is after Treaty of Sagoli in 1816, River Kali was considered to be the boundary between Uttarakhand and Nepal. However, there are different interpretation of the origin of the river, because of which the dispute arises, sir.
Okay. And why this sudden flare up? Because this dispute has been there for a long time, but the sudden flare up, why?
So that is because of the change in government regime in Nepal, sir. So it was KP Oli previously. These days it is Prachanda, who have a communist outlook, and they're seen as anti-India, and that's the reason, sir.
Okay. There has been a lot of talk about the collegium system.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, what is memorandum of procedure?
Some memorandum of procedure was established in 2016, which defines the way the judges are appointed by the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court recommends a list to the central government, and they approve.
What is its relation with the collegium system?
So the
what is MOP? What is collegium system? Like how they are connected?
So the collegium consists of the Chief Justice of India and the 4 senior-most judges who recommend the judges to the Supreme Court. And it's based, the memorandum of procedure enlists the steps to be followed and how the central government comes into the picture, and they have been negotiated together by both of them.
Okay. What is this LIFE campaign?
So the LIFE campaign was unveiled by India at G7. It is Lifestyle for Environment. It talks about how each of us individually can impact the climate change and global warming by changing the lifestyle.
And what is P3? There's also a concept of P3 in this LIFE campaign.
So I don't know, sir.
Okay, you can look it up. Now you come from Uttarakhand, and I'll take you back like few years back. So there was this former Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, and he made a comment about a person, a female, who was wearing ripped jeans. And he connected the wearing of ripped jeans with how they will take up the family responsibilities. What is your view on this? Should people sitting or in high constitutional positions, they should have this freedom of speech and expression or not?
So I think they also have freedom of speech and expression. However, given that you're holding such an office where you can make your statements are looked upon by the people, I think you have to exercise that freedom of speech and expression more responsibly, sir.
Okay, thank you, Madhav.
Thank you, sir.
Madhav, what difficulties are faced by differently abled people in the society?
So some of the difficulties that I can think of is that, sir, one is societal acceptance. So there are two extremes, sir. Either you're looked upon as a bechara, or you're looked upon as somebody who cannot, or somebody who cannot do anything. So it's the acceptance that creates a problem. Secondly, sir, accessibility is an issue. And sir, third one would be, sir, to be the awareness about the benefits that they can get is also one of the challenges that the disabled people face, sir.
What government has done for them?
So government has a number of schemes for them. There was a Person with Disabilities Act of 2016, which outlines the benefits that the disabled people get. For example, horizontal reservation that they get. Then there are Accessible India campaign, and they have benefits in education, employment, railways, and so on and so forth, sir.
So what have you done for their welfare in your life and career?
So I think I have tried to inspire people like me, because I myself, being a disabled person, has tried to try to navigate out of the disability and empower myself through education. And so whenever I meet people, I encourage them and inspire them to achieve their potential, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. It was nice talking to you.
Thank
Your
you so
interview
much.
is over. You may go now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Sit down.
Thank you, sir.
So, but this is your second attempt at the personality test.
Yes, sir.
When was the first?
Last year, sir.
Last year only, na? So, how much marks did you get?
I got 160, sir.
Why so such a low mark?
So even I am trying to decipher. I think it was a bad day, sir, for me.
Must have been one of those bad days.
Yes,
But
sir.
did you really try to introspect What could have gone wrong?
So I gave it a lot of thought. There are 2-3 things that I can think of. One is that one stand was, what is your opinion on private schools charging so much fees? So I took a very idealistic stand in that you shouldn't charge that much fees. And then they asked me, what was your fees? And which was a good amount. So I contradicted myself. So that is one. Second, there was a question which came out of the blue. What do you know about tribes in Andaman and Nicobar Island? So I told whatever I knew that, and there was a discussion of assimilating tribes into mainstream. So I think when this question had come, probably because it was somewhere out of nowhere, I may have got scared, but I think I picked up myself after a while. But I don't see I did that badly. So.
By any stretch of imagination, you should not be getting such a poor marks. You are capable of getting anything in the range of 180 to 200 plus. So that is the.
It came as a surprise to me also. So I mean, I saw
anyway,
it and I was very.
Just one of the bad dreams. You take it as that, and there is always a future for you. So you are a wonderful candidate, no doubt about it. So I'm not going to delve much on the various facets of personality test. You are an honest person. Honesty of purpose is there. Two or three things you must keep in mind, as you have yourself said. That number one, if you don't know anything, candidly admit, sir, I don't know, which you did here. So you should not, that should not dishearten you that I have not answered 2-3 questions. Now what to do? I must answer the 4th question. If you don't have domain knowledge or the inputs available with you, just say, I don't know. Wherever you know, try to speak meticulously. When you speak meticulously, then it becomes a very focused statement from your side, very crisp statement. So that is what is important. So always try to maintain a balanced view.
Thank you, sir.
So because that is the only thing I can think of, that where you may take some sort of so-called extreme view, which you should not be taking. Otherwise, excellent communication skill, your background is very good, you have the experience of working in a private sector. So life in a private sector, life in government, those questions may be asked. Why did you leave Microsoft? Is such a well-paying organization, and severance package and all. Suppose somebody asks you, what is the severance package available to a permanent employee of Microsoft or companies like that, like Facebook or Google and so on and so forth. So you should be able to explain, because you are a person who has worked there. So you should be able to explain to them. And do you believe that the hire policy of the company is good for the employees, good for the country, good for the society? That kind of a general questions may be asked.
Yes.
So with all that, I think you take it as a bad day, and we all wish you a much better day when you go for the interview next time, and you will be getting very good marks. No doubt.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
How have you done in your management paper compared to the last year?
So last year also, so management, I have no benchmark to measure because it just comes as a surprise.
That's true.
So I got extreme marks. I got 103 and 142.
I see.
And I would say the one I got 103 was the best of the 7 papers. I don't know what I did so wrong there.
So I think management is one subject which is not opted by many candidates. It's a highly specialized. So expect questions. Last time if they didn't ask you, this time they may ask you, particularly with reference to governance and all that. So I think you'll be doing very well. Just keep your head on your shoulder and don't take any extreme view. Okay.
Sure, sir.
All the best.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.